Walls by Brindley, Hallam, Davis. A mutual friend had put them in touch. You need Chris's help, Danny was told. Danny could use you, Chris was told. Chris was an early practitioner of the art, or science. Some people thought he was a magician, some a wizard. Others said he was an exorcist, which was the closest you could get using the existing terms. Chris called himself a reader. He read walls, not with his eyes, but with his skin. He used his fingertips, his outstretched palms, the side of his face. The left side, he said, was more sensitive. Sometimes he pressed himself, almost naked, against the cold, hard surfaces to read the faintest echoes. All the emotional traumas that had played out within the echo of the rooms, he read. They're not like screens, he said, or printed paper. You can't read them over and over again. Once they've been read, they're gone forever, absorbed into your skin, into your body, into your mind. That was why he was wanted, of course. That was why people thought of him as an exorcist. He got rid of the bad memories in the rooms. Often it was distressing work, debilitating even. Sometimes after a reading, he looked like an old man, a sick man, a trauma victim even. People never want to get rid of a benign atmosphere, he told me. That was why they were overlooked for so long. He had so few opportunities to study them, the walls that held happiness. It was a breakthrough for us all when he met Donnie. When she opened the door to him, there was an instant and mutual attraction. He told me later that he couldn't stop his professional smile from spreading across his face like the grin of a love-struck youth. And she was no better. Her eyes, which were bright in any case, sparkled as if she'd been drinking champagne. They were both taken by surprise and stood, staring at each other. He trying to remember why he'd come, and she trying to remember why she called. The kitchen of her little house bore the brunt of past unhappinesses. And after Chris and Donnie recovered enough to deal with the small talk and introductions and brief explanations, he got to work. With his eyes closed and his hand reached out to the plaster, his head tilted as if listening. He stood still. She lingered at the kitchen door, watching as the stories of past inhabitants unfolded themselves to him. She could tell that he was moved. Hurt, regret, anger all passed across his face as he stood there motionless. It took an hour or more, during which time neither of them spoke or moved. Chris told me that stone was the best to work with, naked stone. The trouble was, he said, that bare stone was mostly found in buildings with unpleasant pasts. He had cleared castle rooms in which murders had been done, or worse. Brick, he said, was porous, and the stories hid themselves, as if ashamed and had to be looked for, felt for, much more carefully. The dense plasterwork of modern buildings helped. When he broke contact with Donnie's wall and stepped back, the strain lingered on his face. And having stood and watched him all that time, she could see how much he put into it, how much it took out of him. Perhaps she wanted to offer some compensation for that, some respite from it. The sitting room, she said, has quite a different feel to it. It feels, well, almost excited. She felt foolish when she said it. But he seemed genuinely interested. Perhaps he wanted an excuse to stay longer in her company. Maybe I could read that too, he said. Won't that destroy it? She asked. She had taken in all that he told her of the process. The atmosphere? No, he said. And he told me that it was on that occasion he first realized there was a difference. He told me I'd never been asked to read a happy room before, though I'd encountered one or two. The question of it stripping them of their ambiance had never been raised before. It suddenly struck me how odd that was. She took him through to the sitting room. And it was not merely benign. Buzz was something, not happiness exactly, but giddy exultation. I didn't even have to touch the walls, he said, to feel it. I only had to pay attention. I could feel it tingling against my skin. He said my first thought was that some amazing emotional high had been experienced in the room, and in the very near past it was so strong. He asked, what had happened there? And she shrugged. I had no idea, she said. The house stood empty for a while before I moved in. And was it always like this? That's what's strange, she said. The kitchen was always gloomy, worse than gloomy, sinister even. It's only in the last couple of months that it seemed to, well, come alive. Chris told me how he touched the walls then, how his fingertips seemed to sizzle, how there were multiple stories buzzing through the walls, overlapping. He was fascinated. He'd never felt anything like it. Usually, he told me, the stories were dying, fading, still tainting the atmosphere, but receding. I have to follow them, chase them out, get them out. And then they're finished. But in these walls, the stories were chasing me. They got stronger as I read them. Chris asked Johnny if he could come back and read the room again. And as he said it, he realized that it was not only the room that was the attraction. He was still touching the wall as he spoke. And when Donnie answered, she realized that she was happy to have him return. Not just to find out what the walls were saying, but because she wanted his company. He was elated. And that was when Chris had a breakthrough. It was his own elation he was reading. That moment of soaring excitement, it was there, in the wall. And as the moment passed, the pulse within the brickwork died. But he could see newer pulses, greater ones, forming behind it. And that was when Chris saw it clearly. When events, emotional events occur, they send out ripples. But the directions are in the dimensions of time. Negative emotions flow into the future, so that when we perceive them, they're in the past, they're fading. Positive emotions flow into the future, into the past. And we perceive them if we are paying attention before the event occurs. It was their meeting, Chris and Downey's meeting, that had been flowing through the walls of their room. Even as he stood there, he could sense the greater feelings that would come to them in their future. He told me all this when he was an old man, by which time many of us had learned his skill. And he and Donnie were living together happily ever after.